thing that I can gather, I mean, he was in this Native American garb and everything, is that I saw something from the past just kind of replaying back in those woods,
Yeah.
living out their daily lives. But yeah, it was extremely unsettling. I'll put it that way. Whenever it was like he was staring through me.
Hello, and welcome back to all my Courage, Confidence, and Connections fans. I'm Janice Debo, your host, and my guest today is Derrick Smith. And we were just laughing that I had the wrong last name for him, but I got it right this time. And where are you coming to us from, Derrick?
I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. That last name will get you. Smith. That's a
Smith
tough
is a
one.
tough one. I know, I know. I'm just learning my alphabet. You know how it goes. Oh, so let's complicate things. Yeah, I have a lot going on, but welcome to my show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Well, we've only talked once, so I have a little idea of what you do, but we'll see if any of your friendly ghosts show up. Maybe Casper will. But I'd
You
love you
never
to,
know.
I know, I'd love you to tell the audience a little bit about you currently, then we'll talk about your backstory, and then we'll go forward to current times as well. So, yeah, just give a little intro here, and then that'll give us context for moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. So my name is Derrick Smith. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. Grew up, kind of born and raised here. I have been in the paranormal research and investigative field for coming up on 10 years now. I'm an author and researcher with my spare time. Uh, and through through mutual friends, I think we met. So we had a nice chat that one time. It was really nice to we could have kept going.
I know. I know. We talked for quite a while. The paranormal is a big subject these days, and I think it's a growing topic amongst people in general.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's getting more normal. It's
yeah,
definitely more normalized anymore.
yeah, it's more mainstream. I think with the current climate, with a lot of energy work going on and the quantum research and things like that, people are more open, I think, personally, to the paranormal. And we've all lost people, and at times we would, I talk to them. They're not here, but I talk to them. And there are times I literally, I mean, I lost my kitty in November, but he has
I'm sorry
appeared.
to hear that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I didn't cry this time. I've done a lot of that, but I'll hear him. I'll hear him, and
Sure.
yeah, he'll. And I know I've had bunch of animals over the years, and another one showed up in my meditation. I'm like, wow.
Oh, no kidding. Just out of the
Kidding.
blue. Oh, that's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah, I know that the guy that I do most of the paranormal with, close friend, more like brother. Dan, he had a one of his dogs pass away actually, and both he and his wife saw that dog running through their house. I mean, it was wild. I think he said that their daughter reacted to it too.
Oh, and that's so cool, and it's comforting.
It
And
is
yeah,
knowing that they're still there.
mhm,
Absolutely.
it is. So I want to go back, rewind the clock a little bit, back to growing up. And
Yeah.
did anything as you were a kid growing up, did anything influence what you're doing now? Were you into that, or what kind of a growing up experience did you
Yeah,
have?
I mean, so the one story that I always remember, I lived actually, one of the investigators that I go out with, she she actually grew up like behind my house. So one of our team members actually grew up on the other side of my house, and so there was like a creek, river that runs through it,
Hmm.
and so she's very aware of the area, and she's told me actually recently that it was a heavily populated Native American area. So when I was younger, I would go down out to those woods, to the creek, to the stream, just kind of walk around. It was nice and peaceful. So we there was just a day I was walking down there and I saw this man, and it startled me because it's kind of secluded. It's wooded. There's houses on both sides, but nobody really went back there. And I was just walking back there, and I saw this man. He was bent down. It was like he was drinking from something or collecting water from the stream, running active stream. I kind of I stared at him for a bit. He like stood up and stared back at me eventually.
Wow.
And I backed out. Like I got out of there. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Something's not going on. Something, I don't like it. I told my parents that, and, they kind of brushed it off. Like, we don't, yeah, I don't know. It's strange, but whatever. Stay out of that area for a little bit. What I realized after all these years and kind of circling back after we reconnected is she had had experiences too back in those woods, and the only thing that I can gather, I mean, he was in this Native American garb and everything, is that I saw something from the past just kind of replaying back in those woods,
Yeah.
living out their daily lives. But yeah, it was extremely unsettling. I'll put it that way. Whenever it was like he was staring through me.
Wow. That is amazing. What a great experience. So, coming forward a little bit, did you have any other experiences that moved you
Not
in
in that
this
area.
direction? Okay.
Not in that area, but whenever like young adulthood, I lost my great grandmother, and
Mm-hmm.
I was very close to her, and I would be visiting my grandma, and I would smell this odor,
Mm-hmm.
and it was her perfume. And actually, recently, my grandma told me that she smells her every once in a while. It's one of those things that, yeah, just kind of letting you know that she's still there, she's still around. And I'm not religious. I would say spiritual, but not religious. But in my car, I still have this old saint necklace that she had, and I swear, you sometimes all you do is hold it or touch it, and it kind of calms you down. And it's like that's my reminder that she's still there.
That is so amazing. And I mean, I've had experiences. I'm a vivid dreamer. And the other night I dreamed I had a pet cardinal. Well, you can't have a pet cardinal.
Right.
But I dreamed and I was holding him and it was so sweet. And then I was telling one of my energy worker friends, a client actually, and she goes, "That was probably your mother, because that was my mother's favorite bird too."
Oh, no kidding.
No kidding. It was so surreal and it
Yeah,
feels real. It feels real.
sure. I've heard things about cardinals too. That it's
Mhm.
that can be people come your loved ones coming back as reminders as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Now, current day, what or current recent past, what propelled you into this field and how long have you been doing investigating the paranormal?
Yeah, so it's something that's kind of always, been interesting to me.
Mhm,
The shows, their movies, books, whatever. It's always kind of been around. I was always drawn to it, but I never saw myself as actually getting involved in it.
mhm.
For my bachelor party, actually, Dan, who I mentioned earlier, he was best man, and he actually was able to hook us up with a overnight paranormal investigation of Hillview Manor up here in Newcastle. So that was actually my bachelor party, and that was about 10 years ago, and we haven't stopped. There was something about it that was just, you want to know more, or you have these experiences that at
Mhm.
first you're just thinking like that didn't really happen, did it? And then all of a sudden one thing leads to another. 10 years down the road, we're over 100 places investigated, and all these experiences that just confirm this over and over again. And it's
Right.
just something that there's a draw to it.
Mhm. So you are the current day Ghostbusters. Um, sort
I
of.
mean, I wouldn't. Ghost finders.
Ghost finder.
We don't
Well,
want to bust any ghosts, we want to let them be.
yeah, I know, but I recently watched the second one and it was hilarious where the women are the ghost busting team.
I have never actually
Oh,
seen that one. I have watched the one that was they
Danny
did like the
and
sequel and everything to the old ones, but I've never watched that one.
oh, it's women are the team. Melissa McCarthy is one of them, if you can imagine that. It is hilarious. And yeah, and so I'm sure a lot of people think about people that do what you do more as like, okay, we got these big machines and we're gonna suck the ghost into it and all this stuff.
Right.
I'm sure that's what a lot of people would relate to, but you're paranormal investigators. So,
Correct. Yeah, it's
and
kind of the opposite. I mean, we can go into a building with our phone or our little recorder, and that's if that's what it comes down to. That's all we have. Then we're also happy with that.
yeah, it is fascinating. And intriguing too. I mean, I love the movies both of the movies Ghostbusters, but I like your approach because we don't really want to disturb the peace in that energy field.
Right, and it's one of those things that you kind of get out of it what you put into it too. So we like to go into it with respect and positivity, kind of a grounded approach to it. We don't like to go in. We don't like to provoke. Do the Zach Baggins thing, taking your shirt off and saying, "Hey, come get me." That's not why we do this. We want to get answers more often than not. That's the reason that we do these things. We want to find out who's there, why they're there, and more recently, actually, we've been getting into residential cases and even cleansings. And in that case, when we do that, you have even less to go off of. So you really have to go in with such a wide, open mind,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of whatever comes at you, and you need to be prepared for that. And that's why we like to go into it with positivity, and not to mention we have families we're coming home to, and we can't bring that stuff back with us. You hear about people getting attachments and everything.
Oh
More
yeah.
often than not, they're getting that because they're being negative, they're being disrespectful, they're pushing and prodding and doing something they're not supposed to. So we try to avoid that as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's a different world. I remember, I got to tell you this because I was in high school and
Mm-hmm.
we had this teacher, my ex-husband, my first husband, high school sweetheart. He and one of our teachers, somehow we found out she was dealing with something paranormal in her
Okay.
house. And we went over there and I'll need to ask him about it sometime soon. I'm like, I remember going over there trying to help her figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I started thinking about this stuff again, I went, "Oh, that's right. I was a junior in high school trying to find my first ghost."
I mean, we can't say that we can blame you for that. I mean, we've gone to our good old cemetery every once in a while, and it's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I and growing up, my dad was a preacher, and the church was one of the churches was right across the street from a very large cemetery,
Okay.
and I wouldn't go over there. I think a bunch of our friends did at one time, but yeah, I was like, nope, nope, nope. We don't want to
No
disturb.
thanks. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, it was a little scary, although I did do, and if my friends watch this now, they're going to know all the truth about me. But practiced a seance one time with, I mean, no Ouija board. We
Oh, okay.
friends and stuff. But as kids, we do all that stuff.
Sure.
We're curious and you have the magic 8 ball and fun things like that. So I think we're always exploring this interesting territory. I
Yeah,
would
you always push it a little bit, right? I mean, push
so
those boundaries.
So when you get calls from residences, what are
Mhm.
those like? What kind of things is that
It
about?
it's a little bit of everything.
Mm,
Most of the time, it's like, we heard about you through so and so,
mm,
or we saw some of your things that you'll put up on social media, and they're like, we just have these really weird things going on. And it's really a case by case basis. Some of them want to find out what it is, but not get rid of it.
mm,
Some of them just want to get rid of it because it feels negative. It feels like they're getting suffocated in their own home. In which case, we don't even really investigate. We go in, cleanse, and try to clean it out so they can start fresh. There's a few different ways to approach those things, but in our minds, if you investigate, you're opening those doors. You're trying to get communication back. Well, if you do that, then try to close the door even more. It's even more open now. So
uh,
it depends on their ultimate goal. What they want out of it. We had a case here in Brookline, right outside Pittsburgh, who we went in, and they're like, we just want to know who's here. We want to know what's going on. It's been going on for a while. They're getting out of the property. They're renting it, so it's like we're not really going to be disturbed by it anymore. So we can find out what it is now. We go in and we find out that there's actually two things going on. One's attached to the house, but the other one is a family member that passed away of the owner. So it's like you find out a lot when you get into these things, and we were literally in the middle of one of these investigative sessions, getting all these answers and responses, and we're on the cusp. We're like ready to go in and cleanse it, and we're like, we just found all this stuff out. We need to know what now. knowing that, one of your relatives is, maybe here, maybe with you. Do you want us to cleanse it anymore? Do you want us to get rid of them? They're like, no, no, if that's a relative who she never even met, actually, it's like, no, I want to keep him around. He's obviously watching over me. He has a purpose. And we kind of left it at that.
When you detect a paranormal situation, do they communicate with you through some verbal means, or how do you, I don't want to give me your trade secrets or anything, but how?
There's no secret. I mean, one of these things is one of the great things about the paranormal is that it's this community that we're a part of. It's like everyone has their own tools and techniques about doing it, but we like to put them out there and share it so other people can try it too, and that's how we learn as well.
Hmm.
More often than not, we will go into it, and we like to compare it to fishing. We'll get
Hmm.
into a situation, especially these residences or lesser known businesses, that there's nobody really knows what's going on. Nobody has any history of tragedies or deaths or anything, so we have no idea what's going on. So we'll cast our net. So we'll put out, tools, flashlights, some of the light up things, noisemakers, and just see what's going to come and talk to us. And sometimes they'll come in and they'll speak to us straight up through a recorder. Sometimes we'll get things to do yes no questions by lighting some things up, touching them. But as things progress, if it's intelligent and if it can respond to us, we eventually have different tools that we can use. Like you hear the spirit box, that background noise, like the white noise that you hear on TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
We have tools like that. There's actually new methods and approaches using things like we have a tablet that's dedicated to this,
Oh,
and it's called a phasma box, and it's basically the spirit box with all that noise background canceled out. So that's another technique that we can use to allow them to the other side to speak to us.
that's amazing. So give us I'm a storyteller, so I love stories.
Sure.
I want to get a couple of stories from your experience so our audience can get a really good feel for some of your experiences in this field.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have so many. There's so many things that stick with us. A quick one, for example, we were actually investigating Dan, who's the co-founder. I'll reference him a lot. It was actually his not his in-laws, but his wife's aunt, and she actually was like, her uncle had just passed away. She wanted to
Mhm.
find out if he was there. We have an ovilist that actually produces a word. There's a word bank up to, I want to say it's like 40,000 words that they can use. It's a change in energy gives you a specific word. So we were in there, not much was happening, but all of a sudden this ovilist starts to produce these words, and it was things that were referring to the Rivers Casino here downtown. And all of a sudden her aunt starts to cry. And we're like, what's going on? What happened? And when her uncle was in the hospital, what she would keep telling him is, you get better, you get out of the hospital, and we'll go to the casino, we'll go and gamble. So there were things like poker and the actual word rivers, which is the name of the casino. All these things were coming out, and it's like that was one of those moments that just sticks with you. There wasn't much more to it than that, but we knew that we made contact with him at that point.
That is,
Um,
that's fascinating.
it's there's so many of those little, like, one-off situations that kind of let you know things are happening and let you know that there's somebody there. One of my favorite ones actually was from Gettysburg, which it's we've been there many times. Most people know it as the battlefield, the 3-day battle that took place there. And we have had, on the battlefield one night, we went out. It was my dad and I. We weren't even investigating really. We went out for a father son trip just to tour the battlefield, and I wasn't expecting much. We pack up our equipment because nothing happens. We get back, and I toss it into my computer and I start just play it back because I'm always going to listen to it. I could be listening to dead air for all you know, but all of a sudden you hear this drum and fife just coming through, and I'm happy to send that to you because it's one of my favorite catches. I sent it to Dan because he's not even there, and he's like, "What's going on? Is your daughter playing with her toy or something?" He didn't even know I was in Gettysburg, and you can hear it clear as day. It's one of those things that we take to conventions and things where, somebody comes, they puff up their chest and they say, "Show me something
Hmm.
real, prove it to me."
Yeah.
First off, we're never going to prove you anything. It's not worth the fight. If you believe, you believe. We have plenty of things that you can listen to. So we'll
Yeah.
give them the headphones and we'll say, all right, just listen to this, and you can literally watch their mouths drop as it happens. Just
Oh man.
what?
Yeah, I would love to hear that recording. And I'll tell you, because I've got a lot of history in my family for that area. My
Hmm.
great aunt Hetty lived in Petersburg her whole
Okay.
life. And we visited the crater, which was a site of
Yes.
the crater battle.
Yes,
And
we just went there about 2 years ago, I think. I,
yeah,
I loved it. It's incredible.
Petersburg has a lot of
Oh
history.
yeah.
And we found things. She had arrowheads she found on her land and
Oh, no kidding.
cannonballs and stuff. Yeah.
That's
And
one thing I'd always wanted to do is go and try to find something like that. That would be incredible.
mhm. Well, the house was burned down, sadly,
Hmm.
for the fire department practice, which broke my
Oh
heart because
God. Yeah.
it would have been in the archives of historical homes.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I know, but my mother's passed, and I had to forgive her for doing something like that. So, um, but anyway, there's a photo I'll have to send it to you in of her entryway, and then there's a staircase to the right. I can't see an image there, but I sense that there's a presence that was in the house when
Hmm.
that photo was taken, and I feel sure that until they now the grounds may still be haunted, but I have a feeling there was definitely a few living there.
Oh, I believe it.
Someone looked at it and said, "Yeah, it looks like a soldier or something." Well, she did live through, the war and stuff, so wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised. Yeah, it's. I'll have to send you pictures of the
Yeah,
house.
please do.
Oh my goodness, it's just, and I'd love to hear that. But yeah, I'm glad you got to visit the crater,
Yeah,
and
I mean, I think with the
oh my,
paranormal, one of the things I on my like contact me tag is researcher and historian, because like that's really one of the reasons that I got into this thing. Like there,
yeah.
every place you go, whether it's something major or not, there's history to it.
Mm,
We went to Martinsburg Roundhouse, which I mean, we investigated it, but starting to look into it and everything, I had never heard about it prior to this,
mm.
and it all actually was a Civil War battlefield.
Oh,
So that was intriguing in its own right.
yeah.
And on top of it, then we end up getting paranormal things. We get some activity out of it and everything. So going into them with just a history perspective is incredible to me. It gives me something to research and learn about and look into, and that side of it to me is worth the price of admission as it is.
Oh, I know. And that whole area is phenomenal. I had family all over there, but Aunt Hetty, I'll send you pictures of the house and everything. But I tell you what, that house holds such memories. And my Uncle Matthew, I never met. He died before I was born. I think maybe
Okay.
even the same year. But yeah, just and that was I don't know, it could have been him in the, that my
Sure.
my friend saw. And I love the fact that you tie the historical part to the paranormal. But okay, so I've watched a lot of true crime stuff lately,
Sure.
and so I have to ask, these have you ever investigated anything that was like a part of true crime? Somebody was murdered? Because I've heard stories that in a violent crime situation, their spirits just get really messed up and they can't.
Sure. I mean, there's that tragic side of things, and that's one of the things that people say. There's an intense, an
Mm,
incredible amount of energy that's put out there when something like that happens.
mm,
From both sides, who's committing the crime and the one that's the victim of it,
mhm,
and there's just such an intense amount of emotion that's involved in it that it just kind of sinks into the floorboards. There's
yeah,
actually theories behind that and everything, and that's when you start to get into some of the more residential, the more residual types of things where it's just playing back over and over again. um so as far as, I mean, there's always something. I mean, almost all the time, you do these big prisons, there's always a story tied to them.
yeah.
Some of the things that we've found are, we try to link a lot of these places like to the building itself,
Mhm,
and some kind of past event that might have spurred it or caused it. But a lot of the time, especially if you look into the early 1900s era, a lot of things were not documented, especially if it was something that was hidden in a small town, something like that.
Hmm.
One of our most recent investigations actually occurred in Ambridge, where it was a nail salon, and we ended up getting just it was just in this one back room that's connected to an alleyway back there, and there's nothing documented about any kind of murders or anything, but we started getting words of brothel and murder. And what we ended up doing is we got all of these evidences, we pieced things together, and what ultimately happened is we were told that there was like a love triangle. One of the women was a worker at the brothel. We were told that why did somebody come to this store to buy me is basically what we were told, and her husband and her lover, they all had. It sounds to us like the her husband murdered both of them and hid them under the floorboards.
Oh.
Again, nothing documented, so we cannot go and say, this is what happened. But that has been kind of the story and the responses that we got to propel us to that conclusion. Now, we always keep our doors open. We actually, the night that happened, we had a police officer come in. Well, it was for things like, we posted on social media, so they were curious. And it's like, nothing's documented from that area. You can talk to them and be like, hey, can you help us out? Can you give us any records? There's, if somebody wanted to hide something back then, that was the era, that was the time frame to do it. So a lot of the time,
Yeah.
those kinds of things were completely hidden.
Hmm.
We did a Blennerhassett Hotel down in West Virginia, it's an incredible building. We were part of their convention annually. I think they actually closed it up this year. They weren't doing it this year, but we there was a suite. It was a two-story suite in this place that there was actually a murderer, one of the first serial killers in America. He was considered the highway murderer, and he lived in the building that was adjacent to it. Before it was a hotel, there was an attached apartment complex, and that's where he lived. And we actually had a flashlight straight up push over on us when we called out his name and we tried to see if he was there.
Mm.
It was pretty intense actually, and then you can hear this like bang 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 on the table, like it was just the feeling that this man was just he had that over intensity where it was his area, his property.
Mm.
Don't linger there too long.
Yeah, I watched the some interview the true crime series
Mhm.
about Ted Bundy, and
Oh yeah,
I mean that was one of the worst, but I think they actually it was so traumatic to everybody in the building. They tore the building down.
yeah.
And
They didn't want people coming there treating it like some kind of attraction, right? I've
right.
I've heard those kind of things before.
Yeah, same with John Wayne Gacy.
Hmm.
John Gacy. Oh, he was despicable too. But
What was the other one? Ed Gein. I heard they did the same thing where
yeah.
they tore the house down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just all of this together is looking at all of the paranormal in light of a lot of these crimes and stuff. Yeah, it's interesting because that would be a very violent energy and it could get
Mhm.
stuck somewhere. And I'm fascinated by the whole thing. And I've never wanted to watch true crime, but lately I've gotten into it. So,
That's one of those
historical.
subjects that's hard to once you get pulled in, it's hard to get back out of because it's so interesting. There's so many different facets of it
I
that
know, I
you can
know.
look at it from every angle, and there's always something new.
Yeah, I find forensic science kind of fascinating. Not that that's anything I would ever explore, but it's phenomenal to me how they can identify people from so long ago.
Oh, absolutely,
Now I know
yeah.
it's amazing, and but this whole thing that you do is, I'm sure you've had some pretty spectacular cases. Any other stories you want to tell us before we wrap it up? Is there another like wild one?
So one of the ones I'm the one in these during the investigations that I'm considered the one that's going to die first in a horror movie because if there's a sound, if there's something in a room, I'm like, I'll go first. Give me the camera. I'm going in. So I don't get scared often. So when you hear that, if you ever watch our stuff on YouTube, on our website,
Hmm.
social media, even if you hear me startled,
Mm.
something's going on. One of the very few times that that's happened was at the Postville Elementary School. Of all places, an elementary school, right? But we're actually sitting in a classroom, and I hear it sounded like a shuffling of footsteps out in the hallway. So I take the camera, I go out, I start snapping pictures. Um, you can actually see it in the pictures. This like mist looking thing approaching me. I
Oh,
didn't see it at the time, and all of a sudden the shuffling got faster and faster, and then all of a sudden, you know how you can feel like somebody going real fast, getting up into your face. I felt that. And I almost jumped backwards, fell backwards into the room, and everyone's kind of like, are you okay?"
oh man, no, no, yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, it's interesting how you can actually capture it on a camera too.
Well,
That,
that's one of the ways that, we like to say, if you don't have the evidence behind it, it's just a good story,
yeah,
right? And so we always like to have, if not just one, multiple pieces of evidence to tie into the experience or to tie into the communication or conversation, whatever we're having.
right.
We can have a word or a recording, but then if you also have a flashlight next to you that's lighting up, or a REM pod that's turning on at the same time, it helps to tie those things together and really, pull it all together into one big picture.
Yeah, it validates
Exactly. That's
and
that's exactly what we're trying to do in those scenarios.
yeah, and with technology getting strong, more and more advanced, I imagine you'll find more and more ways to capture these.
Sure, but at the same time, there's something to be said with going into these dark buildings with just an old digital recorder, like, a recorder and a camera, and that's that. Because a lot of the time, a lot of these things that are meant for ghost hunting, they're marketed for it. It's a little bit difficult to trust it because it's
Yeah,
marketed for it. In that way, you all of a sudden you're starting to hear more voices, and
right.
hearing all these things come through it because it's made for that. It's made to do these things. So it's
Yeah.
you have to kind of test things out, trial and error, before you can confidently say, yes, this tool works accurately.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people selling stuff that would just make you think you've got something, but you don't necessarily have something.
Exactly. That's the fine line that you have to
Yeah.
to kind of walk there.
Yeah, that is great. Any final words before we say goodbye to our audience, Derek?
Just give us follow along with what we do. We share all of our evidence, and we like to hear back from other people. Sometimes we don't catch everything. We've put pictures up online on Facebook that, for example, that people will come and they'll say, did you look in this one part of your picture? And then we go through 200, 300, up to 1,000 pictures sometimes during an investigation, so it's a lot to look through.
Yeah.
But when we share these pictures and people go in and look at them, they can say, go in this area. I feel like you got something there. You go in, and all of a sudden you get one of your best pictures of the night because somebody saw it or looked at it. So, help us out. Follow along. You can be a part of our journey at Iron City Paranormal is pretty much all of our social media platforms.
Okay.
IronCityParanormal.org. It's our website. And then, we try to share our stories as best we can.
That's fantastic. So all of your contact information, your links will be after the broadcast. We'll have everything for our audience to go explore and find out. You could even share a story. Maybe you have a story, audience, that you could share with these guys. Who knows?
Absolutely. We actually have a shared stories page on our
Oh,
website. We
nice.
love to share stories. So submit them to us. We'll get it up on our website.
That is great. Well, thank you so much, Derek. This has
Of
been
course.
fascinating. So I'll look forward to that recording. And if you want, I don't know how I can do it, but I could potentially put it at the end of the broadcast, if my editor will allow me to do that.
Sure. I can send you everything we talked about, and if
Great.
they can figure it out, that's awesome.
That'd be fantastic. Well, thank you again, and we finally got this done. Audience, thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. We will see you back on another episode of Courage, Confidence, and Connections.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, audience, I gotta put glasses on to see what I'm doing.